Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's GeneralTarheel, your coach of Charlotte Carbinks, bringing you the APA Season 6 Week 9 team build versus Coach Deadbolt and the Baltimore Honchkrows. Now, as of last week with Week 8, we did get the win against Coach Hugo and the Montreal Monfernos. We did get a lot of hacks go our way, and it did affect the game. I'm sure it would have been a close game, or if not in Hugo's favor, because he did make some good plays, and he still had good sets, such as the Charty Berry that I expected on that Zapdos. So, kind of coming from a lucky week as of last. Hopefully, I get luck again, because looking at Deadbolt's team here, it's very scary. Deadbolt's roster here is honestly probably the second most offensive team in the league besides mine, or at least we're close. We're actually almost tied overall. Like, we're both 5-3. He has a plus 11 differential, and I have a plus 10. So he's one more than me. And after this week, actually, we are starting the interdivision matches, so that's when we get closer. And as of now, I only need one more win to get playoffs. And I ensure any possibility, though, if I get a win against Coach Point Blank, who we'll be facing soon. But as of this week with Deadbolt, but Deadpool is an amazing hero, no doubt. Starting with this totem pick, we have Jellicent the Water Ghost, the amazing Mega Scizor. You got Lando I, which should honestly be banned, because yes, this is a sheer force Lando I. Sylveon, Conkeldurr, Hydreigon, Rotom Heat, Shaman, Regirock, Dodrio, Mismagius, and Zebstrika. Originally, this team belonged to Frostfire, which was an old coach of the APA, but he has unfortunately dropped. Not too much of a letdown, but anyways, with his draft, it's still very scary. I don't know what changes he made since Frostfire, but either way, that Landorus Eye is very powerful, and his Scizor is very powerful. It leads kills on his team. The Conkeldurr, of course, is fighting type, which destroys my team because typical sand team. And the Rotom Heat also brings something to look at. So for things that he won't bring, though, I'm definitely not seeing anything from the bottom row coming. Regirock, I just have so many things to get that rock weakness between like Primeape, Excadrill, Energy Ball, and Chandelure. My Milotic absolutely walls it, even though it does get Thunder Punch. There's Dodrio, I have Gigalith, I have Bronzong. There's no reason for it to come. It just gets walled. Mismagius could be a possibility, I guess, if it wants to be an answer to a possible Chandelure that comes, but otherwise I don't really see it coming. Its speed tier does speed tie with Mega Pinsir, but other than that, it doesn't provide too much importance. Zebstrika just isn't that strong, and then after I have like a lot of special defense and like Gigalith or Reuniclus, it wouldn't really do anything. And then there's Shaman. Shaman, I feel like it's a possibility. It's just Kyurem Black destroys it. Excadrill can't have coverage with, like, say, X-Scissor. Chandelure absolutely does a number to it, even though it does get Earth Power for Chandelure. But mainly, I'm seeing, I'll show you what I expect, but I don't think anything from the bottom or Shaman is necessarily coming. But the main things I expect is, of course, this crazy Landorus. Earth Power, Sludge Wave, U-Turn, Knockoff. It's very easily switches out Sludge Wave with something else, like a fill-in move, but Earth Power is a definite for that very strong stab. Pardon the voice crack, we're just gonna move on. Sludge Wave, of course, can be a fill-in. It's just good overall, like, mix. U-Turn, just for the momentum, and then Knockoff. Just the amazing 115 and 125 just allows him to be both, and that Sheer Force with the Life Orb is just crazy, ridiculous damage. So that's Sludge Wave if you did want to substitute it for something. I mean, it could be like a Focus Blast because the fighting coverage is important. And if he does opt to bring Focus Blast, I would be expecting him to bring a Fightium Z Landorus. Of course, that's the problem with Life Orb and Sheer Force. You can't tell if it's going to be, if it's Life Orb or if it's got like a different item, a Scarf, or as it is a Z Crystal. So Landorus is definitely going to be a dangerous thing. It was really hard to build around this. He said he had a trouble working with my offensive core, but this Landorus is just scary, like, no matter what. Just because of Sheer Force and then Life Orb, it just does so much damage. Like, you have resistances or something, but then he can have a counter to that in his move pool. So it was very scary, and I'm really hoping I can work around it easily, hopefully limit it from coming in. So, And then moving on, of course, the Conkeldurr. This thing's going to be a pain this match, I can promise you. Whether Lando or Conkeldurr, both of them are going to do a lot. Of course, my team being heavily weak to fighting types, this is just going to be a pain. I do have Choice Span on here. He does have an easy option of bringing Assault Vest. That way he can take on Milotic, and he can also take on like Chandelier, since he'll have access to knockoff and such. Assault Vest would actually be pretty helpful for him. That's if he doesn't want to go fully offensive or get himself locked into a move. Choice Span would just be somewhat ideal, because the Iron Fist Mach Punch, of course, would enable him just to destroy Excadrill and like possible sand coming. Kyurem Black, if I'm like say Scarf, or not even Scarf because I outspeed Conkeldurr no matter what. But the Banded Mach Punch gives him a lot of help. Drain Punch, of course, would be helpful. The only thing is that this actually does help him if he's AV, because Reuniclus, which is of course a switch in, I had a problem with the Girder that I faced against Matt Archer, where this thing gets fighting and then dark coverage. So even if you want to predict the fighting coverage, if he's not Choice Man, he could immediately go for knock off the following turn, and that's going to do ridiculous damage if not knock me out. So, but Mach Punch, of course, for the priority. Drain Punch in order to get health back and maximum damage with that Iron Fist. Knock off in order to hit Reuniclus and Chandelier and get rid of any items. And then I just threw in Thunder Punch, mainly because you always want some sort of elemental punch on there. So I wanted Thunder Punch in order for him to hit my Milotic super effectively. He could opt for some other move, but I felt like that was decent enough. I have to watch out for Bulk Upset. That's the only thing I'm like slightly more scared about with Conkeldurr. So I just have to be careful around this thing, and hopefully I can limit it, or at least get a lot of damage on it, so it's kind of afraid of coming in without, and it's not capable of getting Drain Punches off. So it just has a crazy attack at base 140, and I have to limit it as much as I can. Next up, Rotom Heat Choice Scarf. This is 100% coming. If it doesn't come, then that's kind of weird, because this just gives him momentum. It gives him a possibility of crippling my defensive answer to it with the Trick Choice Scarf. The Choice Scarf just mainly helps against Mega Pinsir with setup, because that actually does a lot versus team. Rotom Heat not only makes it to where like Pinsir can't necessarily hit it with its normal set, besides like say close combat or something, but Mega Pinsir can't quick attack it if it gets the outspeed with the Choice Scarf, so this thing gets a free overheat off. And then of course Thunderbolt for the stab, and also it's somewhat of a threat to Milotic, because Milotic can Scald. It's not like this thing is a switch in to Milotic or anything. And then of course Volt Switch for his momentum. This thing also gives, it's just got coverage against my ground type, which is Excadrill, which is the overheat, of course, being super effective and capable of one-shotting Excadrill. And then I have the Trick and down. This is probably what he's going to bring, like, no doubt. Another option would be Will-O-Wisp on this thing, but I feel like Trick would be more beneficial. This would be capable of Choice Scarfing either a Gigalith or a Reuniclus, which is normally my only special defense switch in, which, of course, one of those is the cases for this week. So Rotom Heat with this set, I feel like, is a definite possibility. I just went with random 252s. He could do certain things in order for it to benefit him more. He might go Modest in order to confuse me on whether or not Scarf or something of the sort. So I just have to be careful. Rotom Heat will just be more of a momentum thing this game. I can definitely work around it better than like say Conkeldurr or Lando I. So just another thing to watch out for. And then onto his defensive parts, we got the Jellicent, typical max defense Jellicent in order to take on like say the Excadrill. Gigalith, it can't really take on Mega Pinsir, but you know, some of the sort. One possible set he could bring, I don't know if he would do this. I feel like Hugo would do it. I'm just saying that because I predicted the berry last week. He could bring Wakan Berry. That is so it can eat up a not completely, but eat a Fusion Bolt, sorry, from Kyurem Black with the Wakan Berry and get off a Will-O-Wisp. That way it can't do any more damage, and it can recover stall Kyurem. Because Kyurem's not necessarily going to hit this from a special side unless I have some form of like neutral coverage, but either way, Jellicent already has good special defense, so it would be able to take on Kyurem at that point. But for the moveset, I have Recover, of course, for the health regen, Scald for the stab, and of course to try and get a burn on like say Excadrill. It's a good answer for Gigalith. Pincer just in case he needs to. And then, of course, Energy Ball. This is a take on the Milotic. I do predict this to come because Water Absorb, this thing is just a good switch in for Milotic for sure. He can easily get Form of Status if he wants, even though that will give me Marvel Scale. Statusing Milotic specifically, only Toxic would be beneficial. But that's just a possibility for his Jellicent. And then I have Will-O-Wisp, of course. Like I said before, it just limits any offensive threat I could have, like with Mega Pinsir, Excadrill, or Kieran Black, or Primeape, something of the sort. And then moving on, Sylveon. I don't know why I feel like this thing could be an option for switching out, because it's definitely his main like Spadef possibility, because he needs an answer to Chandelure, if that comes. But I have Wish Protect, of course, just the immediate duo. And then Hyper Voice for the stab with the Pixelate boost, and then Shadow Ball in order for him to actually hit the Chandelure. Even though this thing can basically stall Chandelure, he does need some special defense investment in order to take on, like say, Specs or something, but otherwise this thing is very bulky against Chandelure. I did give it leftovers just for the overall regen. I don't really see any other possible moveset coming, because he needs to stab, but he also needs to be able to threaten out the Chandelure. I mean, sure, you can't opt to stall Chandelure with Wish Protect, but that would also give me an option to get momentum on like a possible Protect or Wish. That's the one thing I just don't like about Wish, so you normally have to run Protect in order to get the health and whatnot. But if he doesn't have Shadow Ball, then he just opts to bring either Heal Bell, because he has a lot of offensive threats that don't want to get touched by, like, say, Scald, or if he opts to bring like Baton. He doesn't get Baton Pass, right? It does get Baton Pass. If he wants to do a slow Baton Pass for momentum, which would be honestly very dreadful against this team, because he has Volt Switch with Rotom, and then he has U-Turn with Landers and Scizor. Yeah, kind of surprised this guy's 5-3. But moving on to Mega Scizor, I definitely see like a mixed bulky defensive with some offense coming. I see the Bullet Punch, of course, for the priority and just the Technician Stab. The U-Turn, once again, for him to get momentum. Roost in order for him to get health back, because this thing basically walls Excadrill to a point, to where Excadrill can't really do anything unless I get up a Swords Dance, and then at that point, then I can two-shot with Earthquake and stuff. But he can still move around with all that. And then Tailwind, this just makes it very scary. Like, Landers behind a Tailwind, Conkeldurr. Even though he doesn't really have speed investment in Conkeldurr, at least I won't predict it to happen. If he does, that will be scary. Rotom Heat will have a Scarf, so I don't really expect it. But it just depends on what else he could bring. And then for any other possible Pokemon to like switch out for one of these guys, would definitely be Hydreigon, because that thing is very scary, and it can definitely do a lot of work versus my team. The only thing I definitely see it as an answer. It does get the outspeeding Kyurem, which is important. It has an answer to one of my special defensive Pokemon, or Uniclus. It's got Fire Blast for Chestnut. It can only do a little bit to Milotic, technically. The most it can do is, of course, Draco Meteor. But, I mean, he can easily bring a Z-Crystal on Hydreigon if he wants to in order to one-shot any of my defensive Pokemon. So Hydreigon's definitely a possibility, but I feel like this squad right here would definitely work for him the best. And then moving on to my team, once again, it was very hard to work around this defensively, but offensively, it kind of went in my favor. So I did opt to go for the Mega Pinsir, because as I already said, it does a lot versus team. So we got Hopper, Swords Dance, Return, Earthquake, Quick Tech, very basic set. Swords Dance, of course, for the setup. I am running Return as usual, just for the maximum damage. I don't need to bring Facade because I'm not worried about any form of status. Earthquake, this is kind of important. Earthquake is really only meant, of course, for some things on his team, but mainly the Rotom Heat. Of course, I can't hit it with Levitate, but if I do it before Mega, like if he thinks it's a good switch in, because if I get a Swords Dance up, I'm immediately threatened out anyways. Unless he gets the obvious read when I'm Mold Breaker Pinsir, I can go for Earthquake that turn, and then hopefully I can kill the Rotom Heat, and that would take a load off my back for sure. So I don't know if I'm going to go for that play. I might just save Mega Pinsir in the back to where Rotom Heat's really weak, like after a few Stealth Rock switch-ins, or it took like say a Scald from Katara or something of the sort. But Mega Pinsir's definitely going to do some sweeping if I get his team weak enough. It can eat a few Bullet Punches because Mega Pinsir does get a decent amount of defense investment when it Megas. Um, Priority isn't effective in Conkeldurr because the Mach Punch, of course, only does a fourth. Choice Band will still do a decent amount of damage because, I mean, it's Choice Band Conkeldurr with Iron Fist. But, basically, if his team gets weak enough to a point and doesn't have Rotom Heat, Pinsir can definitely sweep with the Swords Dance. There's no doubt. So, because I get outspeed on, like, all of his team. He doesn't really have much speed investment to his team. His max speed, I believe, is the, Mismagius, if I'm right. Yeah. Or no, Zebstrika, but I don't see that coming necessarily. Because the Rotom Heat just has a better matchup instead of Zebstrika. And you wouldn't bring two electric types. That's just weird. But, so Mismagius does have the base 105, just like Mega Pinsir, so that is why I'm running 252 Jolly. Of course, if I get a Swords Dance up, I do one-shot the Mismagius with a Quick Attack, I believe, because that thing is only 60 HP, 60 defense. It's pretty frail. So Mega Pinsir doesn't really have to worry about that too much, so I can go for a Quick Attack. But I want to match it just in case I don't get a Swords Dance up and I have to click Return against it. Then I just hope for the beneficial speed tie. But that's just, Mega Pinsir really, just looking for a cleanup sweep at the end. Or if I can get off damage at the beginning and, like, say the rest of my team can just wear them down. But mainly I want to keep Pinsir in the back, so I'm not going to be too crazy with it at the beginning of the game. You're just going to see my other Pokemon slowly weaken his team down. Bronzong, we got Kevin this week again, running the Colbur Berry set again. Because as you saw in that moveset I had for Landorus, it's mainly Earth Power, Sludge Wave, Knockoff, U-Turn. He does have the option, out of those moves, he can only move two of them, U-Turn and Knockoff. I'm predicting the Knockoff to definitely be coming just at the Reuniclus. He could just go for U-Turn just to see for momentum, because this is the best thing with Landorus. You want to see what's the actual switch-in on, like, the opponent's team, just for Landorus to clean up the rest of the team once that thing's out of the way. So I might just predict a U-Turn turn 1 with Landorus if he sends that out or something of the sort, depending on which Pokemon I have out, because of course there is importance in every team member. But I have the Colbur Berry in case he does go for Knockoff, that way I'll eat it up and then I can stay in versus him again. It's really sad Bronzong doesn't get any form of health regen. I don't want to give him rest, because then it's just pointless at that point. I'm giving him Hidden Power Fire in order to hit the Scizor, of course. Gyro Ball in case, because I am a switch-in on Sylveon, that's why I gave some special defense investment just to be able to take on a Hyper Voice more. But I do need to scout for that Shadow Ball if it does come as predicted. And then I have Toxic just to spread on his team, but mainly for the Jellicent, because Jellicent is a good switch-in against Bronzong, because it does get that Ghost typing in order to hit Bronzong super effectively, and I can't necessarily do much to it. And then, of course, Stealth Rocks, because I want to limit that Rotom Heat from coming out. I want to avoid Landorus and Mega Scizor from getting a lot of U-turns. And if they do still want to do that, they're taking damage over time. That's important for Mega Pinsir, or important for just my bulky team to slowly take them down. And then next up, Kyurem Black MVP. I'm running a max attack set. I'm going in. We got Freeze Shock with the ICMZ. This thing one-shots a lot of stuff on his team. It one-shots the Sylveon, which is important. It one-shots the Lando by like 1,000,000% because it's 4 times weak to ice. I believe it one-shots the Conkeldurr. Of course, it kills Hydreigon, destroys Shaman. It doesn't get the kill on Regirock if it's S-Max defense. Basically, it destroys his entire team except for like Rotom Heat will live, Jellicent will definitely live, and Scizor will take it probably around 50%, depending on his investment. But other than that, this thing will destroy. I didn't want to bring an obvious like Iron Head Corkscrew Crash against the Sylveon, because this ICMZ is plenty. I'm mainly going to predict him going into Scizor and a possible Kyurem Black, just because that's kind of an easy possible switch in between like an HP invested with like some Spadef and then of course some defense. If he doesn't bring like a mix offense like I predict, if he brings like a mix bulk, then that's definitely a switch into Kyurem, because he's not technically risking the Corkscrew Crash on Sylveon with that. So I'm going for Hidden Power Fire no matter what my first turn with Kyurem Black, because if Sylveon comes in, I mean, it takes it and then it gets up to 100 again with leftovers. But ICMZ will 100% kill it the following turn. I am going to technically be scared if he does predict like a Corkscrew Crash and does like a switch into Scizor. But I mean, he's risking me being Scarf in order to take on like the Lando and other things on his team. Because if he does do the calc, then you will realize that I'm like offensive, I'm not special attack. So I just have to check for that. But I have the Freeze Shock, of course, just for the ICMZ, Hidden Power Fire to hit the Scizor, Fusion Bolt in order to hit the Jellicent and such, and then Ice Beam just because I still needed the Ice coverage because Freeze Shock is a 2-turn attack. So I only have it just for the ICMZ. And that's basically all for Kyurem. I do have enough speed to, I believe it was just to outspeed, what was it? It was something not so important. Oh, no, not a max speed Rotom. I let Rotom outspeed me. Defensive Shaman? Yeah, I think I just wanted to outspeed a defensive Shaman that was slightly sped crept. So, because Kyurem Black does already get the underspeed against Hydreigon and the Lando Eye, and I don't have the Earth Power in order to take on the Rotom Heat, which now I'm rethinking this entire thing because that's actually going to be helpful. But I might consider that later on. If I make the switch, I'll note it out before the battle. But as of right now, this is a set, and I feel like it'll do a decent amount. At least weaken the team for Mega Pinsir at the end. And this thing is definitely going to weaken the team right here. Chestnut with a Rocky Helmet, Bulletproof. We got Boozer, Super Fang, Leech Seed, Spiky Shield, and Roar. I want to make sure I get those Stealth Rocks up with Bronzong for sure. If he does have any form of hazard removal, it is a Defog Scizor. And if he doesn't bring it, then that's going to be very helpful. So I have the Super Fang, of course, in order to reduce health, while Leech Seed takes health from them and gives it back to me. And then I have Rocky Helmet, so they take damage for making any contact with me, as an impossible, say, knockoff from Lando T. Of course, any hit from the Conkeldurr, which is my main switch in right here. And then, of course, Mega Scizor, I can come in on that U-turn and it does take damage. Of course, that will give him momentum in the possible Rotom Heat, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. I do have Spiky Shield this way if, well, like I said, in order for them to take more damage, if he wants to go for like a U-turn on me. Even though at that point I feel like he would hard switch if he does realize I have Rocky Helmet. But Spiky Shield is 1, just in case that happens, and then 2, it also has me scout for any possible Volt Switch or Overheat that comes out of the Rotom. Because if he is Scarf, which I am certain that he's going to be choiced of some sort, whether that is Scarf or whether that is Choice Specs, I would probably expect a Scarf set. But anyways, if that happens, I get to see what he's going to do, and then I can work around that. He might overpredict and predict a double. Like, say, if he goes for Overheat, he might predict me going into Katara. So you might want to do a switch in into, like, Shaman if he has it, or Conkeldurr if it's AV. But, that's just going to mainly be the helpful part of it. Spiky Shield just helped me scout for it. I was debating going for, like, of course, Drain Punch and stuff, but I feel like this is somewhat helpful. Because I also get to stop, just any attack that really threatens Chestnut, while Leech Seed can get more damage off on his team. The only problem with his team is that I can't fully weaken it to a sense. The only reason I'm saying that is because Sylveon can Wish Pass, and then that Scizor can heal itself up with Roost, so that's going to be annoying, and the Conkeldurr even gets Drain Punch. So I just have to be careful around that, and I even have Roar, just in case I want to switch out. This could be an optimal switch for a move slot, considering I kind of want them to take in and take damage against Chestnut. But if I have Stealth Rocks up, and then I'm, like, facing something very easily versus team, then he's probably going to make a switch, and I can get a Roar off to where it's most likely going back into the Pokemon you just switched out, and they're taking Stealth Rock damage, and then I can get off a Leech Seed on the thing that's coming back in and taking more Stealth Rock damage. So that's just good. That's my kind of thought process behind it. Chestnut's really here just to weaken the team for Mega Pinsir, get them really low, mainly hopefully to confuse the possible Rotom switch in. And then I have Speed, just in case he tries to Speed Creep with some of his defensive Pokemon like Sylveon or Jellicent. And then next up I have the Milotic, of course. This is not a full defense. We actually have a mix this week. This is in order to take on the Lando a little bit better and also just in case Jellicent has Energy Ball. I do have Recover, Toxic, of course, in order for me to actually hit the incoming Jellicent, because otherwise I'm not going to touch it, whether that be Scald or Ice Beam, and I didn't feel like running a Hidden Power, that'd be kind of pointless. And then I do have Mirror Coat in case he's running Energy Ball. I feel like I'm going to do that turn 1, just because my Scald switch in, my switch into the Jellicent is Chestnut, technically, but I feel like he wouldn't go for a Will-O-Wisp, so I can't really go in the Chestnut. And then if I do go Chestnut, I might double hard back into Milotic, just in case he does get a burn off, because if I get that with Marvel Skill, it'll be very helpful versus Scizor and the Conkeldurr. The Mirror Coach just could be very helpful, like, if I get I don't know if I want to really do a turn 1 like that against, like, the possible Landorus or anything of the sort. But I will live a Volt Switch from the Rotom Heat, so I can definitely go for a Mirror Coat the following turn, and after all that damage my Milotic will take, it will definitely one-shot any switch in, because he can freely go for Volt Switch versus my team once he notices that, because I have no possible ground switch in. If he wanted to opt for Thunderbolt just to see what my switch was, he could, but I could take a risk and go for a Mirror Coat just to on the Volt Switch, just to see if what I get to get a kill on already, because that just depends on how important that might be. So I'm going to keep that in the back of my head, that if he does go Rotom, like say Milotic somehow gets a kill or something dies to a Toxic and the Rotom comes in, Milotic has plenty of health, like from just a recent Recover, like I was stalling it or something. Then I might keep it in and try the Mirror Coat shenanigans. I just need to make sure I calc how much he's probably going to be doing versus me, so that's going to be important. And then of course Scald for the stab in order to get a possible burn on his multiple Pokemon, such as Landorus, Conkeldurr. Conkeldurr will be a pain if he has Guts. That's one thing. The Guts AV is what I have to watch out for. If it's AV, it's most likely Guts, I want to say, because I can spread status easily with my team. You might notice I like to do that, so I just have to watch for that. And then next up I have Reuniclus. This was really a throw-in spot. I didn't feel like bringing Excadrill because I wasn't really going to have Sand, and it didn't do much versus a defensive Scizor or anything of the sort. Didn't even do that much to Jellicent. Primeape was just kind of weird in this matchup to say, because it didn't really do anything to Jellicent, and it'd be an obvious like Scarfer and stuff, and I just felt indifferent about Primeape. It was a possibility, but just I don't know, because I would have to bring Gunk Shot, of course, for Sylveon, and then he just had the possibility of a defensive Scizor, so then the poison, of course, wouldn't even help too much. So, but Reuniclus, I do have this just for the Rotom Heat, because I needed to switch in. This is a very passive team, actually, this week, with my main only offense being Kieran Black and then Mega Pinsir, which is really different for me. But that's what I felt like I had to do this week. I do have Psychic for the Reuniclus for overall stab, Hidden Power Fire in order to hit the Scizor on possible switch-in. I have Flash Cannon in order to hit the Sylveon. It's not going to do anything to Sylveon, really, because I don't really have that much special attack investment. It just gives me a possibility of a Spadef drop. Also, Sylveon can't necessarily do too much to me, just because of the amount of bulk I have invested into this thing. Oh, I have to switch this Overcooked to regen before I forget. Thank goodness. And then lastly, I have Shadow Ball, just in case Jellicent's a switch in, which is definitely a possibility. But anything can get the outspeed on Reuniclus. That's basically the pain with this thing. And I can't really afford to make pivots, just because his team is very scary. It's not a pivot if the Rotom Heat goes for Volt Switch. It's not a pivot if I know the Landorus is going to go for Knock Off the following turn. It's not a pivot if I know, I don't know, like, I just needed somewhat of a fill-in. This is going to definitely be a sack if I have to at one point, if I have to sack any Pokemon. But Reuniclus is mainly just there for the possible Rotom Heat. That way I can just, like, scare it out or force something else in. So, it's just kind of, this is going to be a bad match in my opinion. I have a very poor matchup. And I know that Commissioner Panther told me that there's even a chance if we stay too close in the ranks, there's a chance that we face each other in the playoffs. So hopefully I make playoffs without seeing this man again, because I don't like this matchup at all. And I just have to make sure I play smart this week. I'm going to use Chestnut to weaken the team a lot. Kieran Black to get for like a for sure kill on one of his Pokemon, and then throwing out other ones. I might bluff like a Scarf at first or something if I want, since he can't tell damage. Basically, even though I feel like he's going to assume a Corkscrew Crash set, because every Dragon's bringing that versus a Fairy in every league match, and some people still aren't catching on to it. Like, if I had a Fairy, I don't have to get it anymore, and I never even used it. But if I had a Fairy, I'd definitely watch for that. Because most Dragons do get, like, Iron Tail or Iron Head, something of the sort. And then that's just threatened out, so. But, yeah, this is going to be a tough match this week for sure. The power of GeneralTarheel might not even help me out here with no L's, so I might take one this week, but I'm going to stay positive as much as I can. Just to try and play safe. I am going to play some risky moves, though, because what I noticed from his replays, he goes for moves based on his sets. He doesn't normally go for basic predictions. He goes for safe moves that are specifically meant on his sets. If you catch my drift. Like, he might predict him to do a switch or something, but in one case, he's actually just going to stay in with that Pokemon in a very ballsy manner and go for something that will help out the next switch in or something of the sort. So, make sure to check out the battle when I face Deadbolt. It will be the following day after this team build goes up. I know I didn't upload my UPFC versus Jock, and that's just because I was very busy over the weekend. I just didn't get around to it. I will make sure to show the replay when I do the second part, or not the second part, but this following UPFC week. We do not still have the featured. We will be the second to last. And this might also be the possibility of the last UPFC week, but I will go through that in detail in the video, so make sure to check that out. And that'll be it from me this week. Make sure to sub, like, share. Deuces.